Selam dostlar, Heavy TV ekranlarına hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Last of Us Part 2'nin PlayStation 5 versiyonu çıktı biliyorsunuz. Remastered sürüm olarak. İçerisinde yani biraz da olsa grafik gelişmesi var ama ana öğeler yeni bir mod var ve ikinci oyundan çıkarılan bazı sahnelerin oyuna eklenmesi var. Tabi biraz da hani grafiksel olarak iyileştirilmiş ama çok da bir fark olduğu söylenemez aslında. Yani dikkatli bakarsanız ancak bu farkları görebilirsiniz. Biz zaten kanalımızda oyunu oynamıştık. Şimdi yeni bu eklenenlere bir göz atalım. Dönüş yok modu eklenmiş. Bir de ekstralarda mı? Nerede o? Yapım süreci. Sahne arkasına bir bakış diyor. Kayıp bölümler, evet işte bu. Oyundan çıkarılan ekstra erken sürümlerini oynayacağız bu ekstra bölümleri. Bir de bu yeni eklenen moda da bir göz atarız. Kayıp bölümlerden başlayalım. Dostlar kanalımıza abone olmayı ve videomuzu beğenmeyi de lütfen unutmayınız efendim. Tek bir beğen tuşu bizlere destek olmanız için küçük bir adım, bizim için ise büyük bir adım. Başlayalım bakalım. Şimdi bu bölüm alfa öncesi aşaması tamamlanmış haliyledir. Konuşma metni yoktur. Alt yazı olarak sadece yer tutucu metinler gösterilir. Jackson Partisi, kanalizasyon ve av. Bakalım. Başlayalım. Ana hikayeden sonra yorumlar da var. Tanıtım videosu, hepsine bakalım ya. Nasıl olsa ana hikayeyi bitirdik. Şimdi bu bir ekstra işler.
You're about to play an unfinished level from The Last of Us Part 2.
Jackson Party.
The reason we added this section is there are a few sequences, and we picked the 3 of the best ones, that we cut from the game. You know, often we build a game that's much bigger than what ends up being the final product. They're
Evet,
months
tabii ki.
away from being finished, but we wanted to give you an insight of what it's like when we built the game, because often we have this whole thing constructed and it doesn't have final art or audio or dialogue. And here you get to see the building blocks of what it's like when we first string a bunch of these levels together. This is the intro to the first deleted level, and this one is the roughest of the 3. We wanted to show
En kabataslak olan buymuş.
more of how Jackson operates. So this is the festival where Ellie ultimately kisses Dina. This sequence would have come very late in the game as a flashback sequence while you're in the farm with Dina.
Evet,
And we
hatırlıyoruz
wanted
burayı.
to show what is the rest of Jackson doing, and wanted to put on the stick, make it interactive. So you could see when you're outside, there are all these almost like carnival games that you can play. You could mix drinks, you could play with these kids that are playing a sort of clicker Marco Polo, sit down and listen to
Çocuklarla kartopu
conversations.
oynamıştık daha önce.
And all the different interactions were first or second pass, very, very early passes. The building blocks are there, but nothing is final. And ultimately, while we were very excited by the sequence, it's pretty fun and lighthearted. It just slowed things too much as we're barreling towards the end of the story at this point. So again, reminder, rough, missing audio, missing animation, missing gameplay tweaks, missing dialogue, but pretty representative of what it would have been. So enjoy.
Buyurun. Ön açıklamayı dinledik. Ön aşamadayım şu an. Hep bunları çıkarmışlar ha. Ses yok, diyalog yok.
Originally, this level was going to transition us to farm.
Çiftliğe
We would go
geçecektik.
all the way through
Ha.
the dance, where Ellie and Dina share their first kiss. Then
Evet.
we would play through farm, and when Ellie plays the guitar at night, she would remember the Seth incident. So, the opening for this was a little tricky. We needed it to match at least a little what you might expect emotionally coming from prior beats, because we were already purposefully disorienting you in time and space. Remember, you just came from this huge fight. To jump straight into it would have been a little too jarring. After some back and forth, we rooted it in Ellie's nerves, calling it back to
Sakinleştirmek
the nerves
istememişler.
shaking in the theater. But this time, for a much more innocuous reason we'll find out later. She's nervous because she has a crush on Dina, who is the only reason why she's here at the dance.
Burada.
Something we really wanted to do was highlight the way their lives had turned upside down since she went down this path. We had this idea of recontextualizing all of our usual gameplay mechanics that were designed for really violent ends. The workbench, door bashes, throwable weapons, and even the infected, which is my personal favorite. Peppered throughout the level are moments of levity or shared history, all the while seeing how happy and mundane they all were before her huge revenge odyssey.
Jackson'ı böyle yapmışlar. Uzun zaman sonra vallahi gördüğüme memnun oldum ya Ellie'yi. Gençler ne yapıyorsunuz? Tabii ses yok burada. Normalde diyaloglar olması lazım.
It is not a festival without one of these throwing games. This one, of course, uses our throwable system where you're often chucking explosive things or stunning things, but for a more wholesome purpose, although some people take this game really seriously.
Buna
A fun
şişe
aspect of
devirmece
this
varmış
is
ama
if you did
yokmuş.
well, you could win a toy here. Ellie would place it in her pocket. If you had done this, you'd find the toy with JJ, the baby, later back at the farm. When we cut this, the toy made
Evet,
it through
hatırlıyorum.
anyway because it was so cute. It is the same one you see on the track.
Oyuncağı bırakmışlar ama.
Ollie the elephant.
Böyle miydi normalde? Ha. Böyle bir aksiyon yapmışlar. Hepsini deviremiyor muyum? 3 tane mi vardı? Başka yok mu ya? Deviremedim onu hepsini.
It is not a festival without one of these.
Başka yok mu ya? Tüh.
This one, of course, uses our throwable system.
Dibine
Where you're often chucking
vursaydım keşke.
explosive things
Neyse.
or stunning things, but for a more wholesome purpose.
Tamam, geç
Although some
onu.
people take this game really seriously. A fun aspect of this is if you did well, you could win a
Sen
toy. The
nesin?
makeup artist is pretty simple.
Makyöz
It's one of those
sahnesi.
little in-game scenes we peppered in to make it feel like Ellie had roots in the town. Hallie, our writer, mentioned that in her mind, an ex-girlfriend of Ellie's tattooed her arm to cover up her scar.
Evet,
So we
dövmeyi
figured this might be the
yarayı
only time you
kaybetmişti.
get to see that.
Şey,
We
yarayı
wanted to
kaybetmek
hint
için
at it
yapmıştı.
and allude to it and make it feel like there had been so much more that had been happening and so much more that Ellie threw away.
Tabii şu an seslendirme yok. Fate painting, yüz boyası. Fate severlerin olmazsa olmazı bunlar. Tabii şu an boya da yok. Burada büyük ihtimal çok daha yani ileri şeyler yapacaklardı. Yapmamışlar. Birisi daha geldi benden sonra. Çocuk geldi. Kartopu oyun sahnesi değil mi?
This is one of my favorite sections because I think that it achieves both the
Kartopu
slice of life aspect of
oynamıştık
Jackson,
oyunda ama burada değil
also
tabii.
being a stark reminder of how dark the world that they live in really is. To attract attention and curiosity, one of the kids was supposed to make this
Takırdayan taklidi yapacaklarmış. Biz de onu
clicker impression. and the others
vuracakmışız.
would giggle. We tried a version where if you got close enough, the kid might try and follow you a little before turning back. Since clickers are blind and move by echolocation, for this game of messed up tag, Ellie must close her eyes and listen for when the children give themselves away. The thought was that these kids
Gözlerini kapatıp
are in
onu
relative
dinliyormuş.
safety. They still grow up with the dangers of clickers and runners, and all those lessons would embed themselves in the games that they play. When the festival got cut, they tried to preserve this moment and move it to the front of the game where the snowball fight is.
Evet, Kartopu Savaşı'nı oraya
However, being in the
taşımışlar.
headspace of a clicker doesn't really teach you how to deal with them. Eventually, it evolved, and they instead made the snowball fight, which was, I think, way more effective. For me, it's character illuminating that not only does
Vay
Ellie
be,
know this
ikisini de
game,
yapmışlar, baksana.
she plays along. There's a familiarity with the kids that's really nice to see, especially because it's such a difference from the Ellie we see later, who has a sort of hollow normalcy that she's trying to get with JJ, but kind of fails.
Baksana takılıyor taklidi yapıyor. Öyle bir elleri bir şeyler yapıyor. Gel bakayım buraya. Oynayalım mı seninle? Böööö. Olamaz, ısırıldık. Onu buradan... Şimdi ben oldum ha o. Tıkırdayan oldum. Ha. Yakaladım. Derken beni düşürüyor. Vay be, güzel yapmışlar. Aslında bu keşke olsaydı ya. Hani mantığı güzel. Böyle hani etraf karanıyor falan ya. Takırdayan gibi. Geziyorlar. İlginç. Burası ne? Muhabbet mi diyor burada bizimkilerle? Ateş başı muhabbeti. Yani bir şey yok. İçeride kim var? Ya da ne var? Birazcık hızlı koşsa. Hı. Bu neymiş?
We use our workbench a lot to make a lot of things that kill and maim and hurt people. Here, we had the silly idea of using the same feel, harkening back to the same animations, using the exact same UI to instead fix a drink.
İçki hazırlama için aynı animasyon.
and then you can
Silah
add something to it.
yapar gibi
And
yani.
at the time, we had some
Hani
different
silahı
reactions from
tezgahta
Ellie
biraz
based on
geliştiriyorduk
how
ya.
strong you
O
chose to
işler.
make the drink. Something we wanted to prototype though, before it got cut, was picking up some ingredients around to add, like a lime or maybe a bottle of someone's favorite whiskey or salt, like you were earning upgrades. We also toyed with having Ellie carry around the drink you made and occasionally sip it, psyching herself up to go talk to Dina inside because she's nervous. It got too noodly though, because she would need to
Konuşmak
take
için
poison
kendini hazırlıyor.
somewhere before she did anything. So it would have ended up more trouble than it was worth.
Faydadan çok zarara dokunacak diyor. Buradan bitki seçeceğiz ha. Böyle bir işte konsept yapmışlar. Tabii şu an alfa. Alfadan da hatta önce değil mi bunlar? Bu ne? Ha, güç gösterisi. Vur. Festival işleri işte böyle ya. Başka ne var? Yüz boyamayı yaptık. Toplam 7 tane varmış abi. Şurada bir şey daha var. Çıkış değildir umarım orası. Yok.
There's a hidden spot at the back that was just a bit of fun. It was highlighting Jackson's normalcy with something we would find in a real world. In the back, you would find teenagers finding some alone time with each other.
Burada
in
bir
a
şey
dark corner
varmış.
of a party. It was rewarding the player for peeking into a hidden corner, but ultimately redirecting them back to the festival. We also had versions of them smoking weed here, despite Maria's consternation, probably having gotten it from Eugene.
Burada bak onu bunlar orada öpüşüyormuşlar. Biz onları basıyormuşuz yani. Aslında yani çok da aşırı büyük bir bölüm değilmiş ya. Yapılabilirmiş. İçeride ne var? Oho, Joel. Saçları uzatmış. Evet derken böyle bir kurguymuş yani bu. Jackson Partisi. Seedle kanalizasyonu neymiş? Tamamlamamış haldedir. Oyuna çıkarıldığı durumu yansıtır. Seedle, Ellie Seedle kanalizasyona sürüklenir. De böyle bir şey varmış. Bakalım bu neymiş? Önce Neil'in söylediklerine
In
bir
this
bakalım.
second deleted level, which is an extended sequence of the sewers in Seattle. This comes on the heels of where Ellie goes into a building and she survives an attack by stalkers and gets thrown out of a window and gets swept away by the current. And then we cut this section that
Evet, hatırlıyorum.
used to be there in the final game. Now you will get to play it. So this was a way to get a bit more interesting puzzles, interesting traversal, figure out how Ellie can navigate the sewers with the fighting current, Ultimately, with a lot of these levels and these sequences, the reason why we cut them were for pacing purposes. But here it is for you in this very kind of raw form that part of it will feel finished, parts of it will feel like assets are missing as far as audio, animation won't be final, but it's a glimpse into what a game looks like when it's months away from finishing. Enjoy.
Tamamdır. Tamamlamamışlar evet ama
Çekil üstümden.
esasını yapmışlar bir daha. Ha. Gerçi yok ya da daha önceki kullanmışlardır. Olabilir. Bırak. Bırak. Çok iyi bir sinematik deneyim. Yine tamamlamamış hal bile muazzam ya. Tut orayı bir yere tut. Tamam. Tamam. Heh. Şimdi kanalizasyonlarda geziniyoruz. Küfür etme.
Neredeyim ben?
Buradan çıkacağız ha. Ne diyor?
The ladder acts as an immediate goal for the player, but being able to climb out is not going to be so easy. To keep levels interesting and engaging, we alternate between
Olumlu ve
positive
olumsuz
and negative
değerler.
values the player experiences. Here, it's a positive to have found a ladder, but then a negative to discover it's not the solution. But then another positive to identify
Direkt buraya
the next
gelecektik
short-term
normalde.
goal of the doorway. By alternating between these opposing values, we give players what they expect, but not how they expect it.
Sonra buraya çıkarken ama burası kırık ya da oyundayken kırılıyordu falan yani. Anladım. Bir daha karşıya geçeceğiz. Çık oraya.
This level, internally known as Find Nora, was quite
Nora'yı
long
bul.
in duration as we had to make Ellie traverse a far distance to the opposite side of downtown Seattle. The sewer section was originally longer than what we released the game with.
Daha uzundu.
approximately 10 minutes more.
10 dakika daha
This
uzundu.
was one of the few areas of the game that used water flow as part of a traversal puzzle. The player has to go upstream to use the current to get to the platform to reach the other side. We mostly cut this mechanic game wide, however it remained in essence in the section swimming to the aquarium as Ellie when you were avoiding the waves.
Anlaşıldı. Buradan sonra? Şuraya. Oradan sonra buraya gideceğiz. Anladım. Çek. Burada böyle bir mekanik kullanmışlar.
When players reach the doorway and enter into the room, they're faced with
Çıkış
a dead
olmadığını
end.
fark
The real
ediyor.
reason for this dead end room is that on the reversal, when exiting back out of the doorway, players are faced with the route onwards. A pipe that they'd not been able to see when they were swept past it on the way in, and something that was hidden from view when on the side platforms. The intention here being that the only option is to go off the standard path in order to search for a way out.
Orada bir şey var. Buradan zaten gidilmiyor. Burası herhalde kapalı olacak değil mi? Burada ne varmış? Birkaç malzeme koymuşlar buraya falan. Anladım. Şöyle malzeme koymuşlar ki buradan görebilelim diye. Atla.
Beni bu lanet yerden çıkar.
Throughout the rest of the level, we also use light to indicate to the player that
Işıktan
they're
yararlandık.
heading in the right direction. At each turn, however, we block the direct route forward. Players would know that they just have to keep finding alternative paths, promoting those feelings of being desperate and trapped.
Işığa gidiyor ama yine böyle tabii olay var. Işık var ama yanlış yol.
We slowly introduce the player to consider climbing into smaller pipes and crouching in these tight spaces. This is to slowly build up to and encourage the player to climb into such a small pipe that they'd have to be crawling on their stomach, which is something that the player previously may not have recognised as a playable space, let alone the desired route they need to take.
Böyle devam et.
Gitgide
Bu
dar
şekilde
alanlar
devam et
atlayacağız.
Ellie.
We added a tiny space just to reward the player's exploration with a pick-up item, and we made sure it was something that made sense that you'd find in this area. A canister and all the garbage that had been washed into the sewers from the surface.
Neymiş o ödüller? Bir fare var, başka bir şey yok. Daha da mı dar?
I
Oha.
love the idea of making Ellie prone through a tiny dirty pipe in order to get out, as it was a great opportunity to use our prone mechanic. A unique camera setup was created to support crawling in these pipes, as the standard prone camera is much higher above the player. We also created custom collision in order for Ellie to maneuver in these tight spaces easily.
Özel bir kamera
Initially,
etkileşimi.
the oblong collision capsule around her character caused issues crawling around corners. We put extra effort into the custom corner collision, so
Özel
the movement
köşe etkileşimleri.
experience is as smooth as the main game.
Bakalım nasılmış.
Siktir.
Hmm.
Tamam. Kendini kaybetme Ellie.
Tam sağ üstten yapmış kamerayı. Ama o kadar uğraşmışlar ama yeni çıkarmışlar. Tamam.
In order for the player to feel cramped, claustrophobic and desperate, we'd been enforcing the traversal mechanics that allow for a tight environment which promote these feelings. We introduced the use of the squeeze through so that we can keep the player feeling enclosed and tight, but without repeating the same geometry. Here we change from low ceilings with wider walls to high ceilings and tight walls to change up the spatial pacing and keep the level from repeating itself.
Böyle geçeceğiz buradan da. Böyle geçiş kullanmışlar. Bu kadar dar alana gidilmez ki ya. Ne yapacağız?
Sikeyim böyle şansı.
Yine küfür ediyor. Ellie'nin küfür ediyor. Başka hani yerden
Bir yer.
sesleri almışlar büyük ihtimal ya.
Originally, we had the waterline much higher here, so players had to swim through
Yüzmek
this
için
tight tunnel. However,
burası
from watching user test
suluymuş.
feedback, it was occasionally causing people to discount the route entirely and turn back on themselves. So to avoid any risk of this happening in the final game, we present a lower water level
Su olduğu
so that
zaman
it's easy to
yolunu
see
bulamıyormuş
and to use.
oyuncular.
Although this isn't as impactful without the prone swim, it's the better decision as it means a smoother experience for the player with no backtracking frustration.
Onu engellerdiniz ya. Aşağıdaki işte hani bu arkamızdaki kapağı kapatacak bir mekanik eklerdiniz falan yani. Ne bileyim bir şey düşerdi, taş maş önüne düşerdi falan yukarıdan. O kolay oldu aslında da.
As we surface from the water and over the crest of the slope, we reveal what is further in this tunnel. A clicker that has sprouted and the fungus has grown on the sides of the pipe. It was great to see people who user tested this area becoming increasingly worried as we forced the player to squeeze past the fungus and inches away from the clicker's face, all the time not being sure whether the clicker might be alive or attack them. Although we aren't as cruel as to force a clicker attack in such close proximity, we do have a payoff for this moment. This clicker momentarily turned into Joel to show Ellie's PTSD from what happened to Joel at the start of the game. Ultimately, we decided to save this moment for the farm level, as it was more impactful there because it could become the centerpiece of that experience. Whereas in the sewers, we weren't able to make it as much of a narrative point and give it the breathing room and reaction time that it deserves, given the tight space.
Bak burası güzel alanlardan birisi. Burada mantarlar ve clicker varmış takırdayan. Salla salla salla. Bak burada korkutmayı denemişler bizi. Burada Joel çıkıyor. Kafa gidiyor. Aman aman. Bu sahne aslında güzel olmuş ya.
Siktir.
Hop. Buradan çıkamayacağını herhalde anlayıp orada karşıya gideceğiz.
For the final section, we eventually opened you out into a wider area as you traverse through such tight
Daha
spaces
geniş bir alan,
leading up to
evet.
this. So changing the environmental pacing makes it begin to feel like we're coming to the end of Ellie's ordeal. An earlier iteration used the current that we'd shown at the start for a slightly tougher traversal puzzle to conclude the sewers. The ladder was clearly visible from most of the area, but the player was faced with a fast-flowing torrent of water they couldn't cross. If the player attempted to jump into the water, they were not able to swim across the ladder due to the water's speed. But instead, they had to traverse the pipe running along the top of the space in order to get across the water.
Tabii ki burası kilitli. Buradan geçmeyi hedeflemişler. Şuradan mı? Buradan çıkamıyoruz. Şuradan mı gideceğiz? Yani buradan çıkman mekanikleri işte. Bak yine kanalizasyon demiri falan.
Using this pipe was retained in the iteration we shipped with, as it's the last of the extreme methods Ellie has to undergo in order to escape the sewers, and what she will go through in her pursuit of revenge.
Buradan karşıya geçeceğiz. Evet, oyun temposunu birazcık yavaşlattığı doğru ya. Gerçi buraya bir şey koyabilirlerdi ya illaki. Hop. Sesler çıkıyor. Bir aksiyon yok tabi oyunda da.
The last ladder climb is quite lengthy.
Son merdiven
Although
oldukça
we
uzun.
trimmed it down to a shorter climb, we liked how this last segment of the journey built
Beklentiyi
anticipation
yükseltmesi hoşumuza
for
gitti.
whether there was success at the top or not after all you've been through. Ultimately, the ladder exits out into the subway station, which is how it connects in the final game. Ellie then
Metro
has to find her
istasyonuna.
way to the hospital from here, crossing paths with the scars. for the
Haa,
first
Scar'la
time.
ilk karşılaştığı yer burası. Merdiveni uzun tutmuşlar ki merak edelim değil mi? Ne var ne var diye. Neyse ki açık. Tekrar buraya. Ama 16 değil. Bir tanesini okumadık ya. Bir tane daha vardı bir şey. Neyse. Evet, bu da bitti. Şimdi 3. bölümdeyiz. Kanizlerini terk edilmiş bir markete kadar takip eder. Hadi bakalım. The Hunt. Son kayıp bölüm. Yani oyuna eklenmeyen
For
bölüm.
this third and final deleted level, what we call the boar hunt sequence, this was a sequence pretty late in the game. It was right after the whole Seattle Abby sequence where Abby spares Ellie. And then we wanted to come back into Ellie's story, but keep it a bit mysterious of how much time has passed, where is Ellie now? So we're coming in on Ellie and she's following a trail of blood. And we wanted to mirror in a way the deer hunt sequence from the first game, but this time do it with a boar. And there's something with Ellie that now she can't let go of this violence. She's pursuing it.
İntikam hikayesinin ikinci oyun.
Innocent animal. This was another opportunity to show how the violence that Ellie has experienced, the violence that she witnessed being afflicted onto Joel, is still sticking with her. And she's still experiencing these PTSD moments. This was a sequence that was pretty far along and was cut pretty late in production. Parts of it are still really rough, but the gameplay, the building blocks were all there. I think you'll have fun to see, like, again, a rough, unfinished sequence that you can play. You can see all the way to the end, and including a cinematic that we end up cutting. And the remnants of the sequence ended up being mentioned in Ellie's journal. So this part of the story that we developed still made its way into the game as kind of optional stuff that you could read about, but here you get to experience it. So as a reminder, this is pretty rough, months away from being finished, but you get to see it now.
Sorun yok ya. Hani konseptini bilelim de ne olduğunu. Buradan bir kanizeyi takip ediyor. Artık saçını başını kesmişti burada değil mi?
Neredesin?
Neredesin?
So the boar hunt was one of the hardest levels for me to work on.
En
It
zor
was a
bölümlerden
huge
biriydi.
challenge
Ve
with the systems
çıkarmışlar.
that we had, and we kept trying, but it never felt quite right. Originally, the level happened after the Jackson Festival, which also got cut, but before Farm. Once the festival got cut, it became the prologue to Farm. The intended experience is that we jump forward in time after the fight with Abby in the theater. We don't know where Dina is. We likely assume she's dead because she was just bleeding out. Ellie is alone. Her hair is short. So maybe this is the future or the present. And she's hunting. Hunting who? Abby still?
Yine mi bir avlıyor? Bir de yarı bir açık dünya gibi bir şey yapmışlar sanki. Bir dakika, şu diğer tarafta ne var abi? Gitmeden bir oraya bakayım ya. Kapılarda da bir şeyler var. Orman yapmışlar. Ekosistemi korumak için tabii bayağı çalışmışlar üzerine. Buradan gidemiyoruz herhalde. Tüfek de elinde.
Nasıl kaybederim ya?
Böyle bir av bölümü.
İşte orada.
Ne orada? He, kan izi mi? Kan izini kaybettiğini söyledi. Ha, kan izi burada.
In early iterations of the fight, it was more arena-like. The player slowly whittles down the boar's health.
Domuzu
Ellie
vurmuş,
gets
kanını
more
arıyor.
visceral and more vicious. We get a little worried about her. As the boar gets weaker, more panicked, more feral, and we start feeling sympathetic to the boar was the hope. In all of these
Oradan
iterations,
gitmiş ama şurada bir
especially
karavan da
in
var.
these wider areas, it required custom AI and scripting to make sure it continued to feel
Yapay
organic
zeka
as an
yapmışlar.
animal, but we really needed it to do specific stuff. It needed to be able to close distances really, really quickly. It needed to charge to attack, but we wanted the feeling of hunting, so we needed to track it down from afar. And we also needed to discourage the player from attacking the boar when it's that close, or it would kind of turn into this melee kerfuffle. How do we do this in our world while keeping the boar believable?
Domuza gelmiş. Ha. Burada yerleşim yerine geliyor. Bak, kan burada. Burada da var. Ha, iki yerden gitmiş. 3 tane farklı yerden buraya gelebiliyormuşuz. İlginç.
We must have gone through 5 or 6 iterations of the boar fight and all, and every single time it changed pretty drastically.
Domuz savaşı mı olacak şimdi?
Phases where one was like all long range. We tried another where you're getting close and you get the jump on it quite literally. You're jumping off of a rock to attack it.
Bayağı çalışmışlar ya.
And then finally we tried a bunch where you almost sort of go around a bunch of trailers and try and wrestle it. We uncovered after some time that taking down a boar over several phases felt very laborious and a little dramatic.
Alt tarafı bir domuz ya, değil mi?
It felt too boss-like, a little too gamey. We decided to cut the first few phases, and we opted for a cold open after the boar had already been hurt off screen. So that allowed us to focus on feeling like we're closing in on prey and to introduce the boar when it was at its most dangerous. Already hurt, already feral, much too close for comfort. And
Yakın
so the
olduğunu
thinking was it would bring us more into
söylemiş.
Ellie's mindset. Is this really
İşte
hunting for
bayağı
food,
sahne
or is she hunting for
denemişler.
some other reason?
İntikam için mi yoksa? Neredesin domuz? Sebze meyve falan filan. Benzinlik. Orada bir olay daha var. Bakalım sağa sola. Bak buradan içeri girmiş domuz.
The gas station was built to highlight the boar's destructiveness. Since it's cramped, the boar feels larger. We also feel trapped with it, though perhaps it's trapped with us. When it charges, it gets to us quickly, so we must be on our toes. This made it more aligned with Ellie's sort of hunting for trouble mindset. Listening became more important, as well as moving around slowly so it didn't hear
Nasıl
you.
arka plan
Could you spot it before
yapmışlar
it saw or heard you?
hikayeleri ya.
And could you get a shot off quickly enough so you could dodge out of the way? Or is the shot worth the cost after? It feels like a gamble. By the end of the fight, everything would likely be in shambles.
Alt tarafı
The boar would
domuz
burst
ya.
through the
Yani
back,
bir şey değil
and
yani
Ellie would
ama
follow it and finally enact revenge.
işte intikam olayıyla beraber hani birleştiriyor bu olayı. Bakalım bir etrafa.
Nasıl gireceğim?
Oradan gideriz de etrafa bir bakacağım. Yıkılmış bir dünya ve benzin istasyonları işte. Buradan gireceğim işte içeri de.
Peki.
Domuz var şimdi içeride değil mi?
Bir bok göremiyorum.
Ha, yakın. Burada böyle bir olay yapmışlar. Tabii şu an alfa olayında da. Ha, burada korkmamız gerekecekti büyük ihtimal. Neredesin? Vurdum seni. Vurdum da. Kış.
Bu kadar. Kaçamazsın.
Buradan buraya girme olayı yapmışlar. 2 defa vurunca. Burada ne var? Oraya da aslında girebilirmiş domuz da. Bunları vurmuyor mu? İçeri mi kaçmış? Buradan buraya girmiş. Bak buradan da girebilirmiş. Domuz yani. İki yer yapmışlar büyük ihtimal. Vurmak yerimize
The boar
göre.
kill was supposed to be anything but glorious. With the boar whimpering at the back of the gas station after Ellie's relentless hunt. After this,
Domuz
hearing
inliyordu.
the drone that we kind of come to associate with Ellie's trauma, we would hard cut to the stream where she's washing her hands and holding rabbits that she hunted, about to return to Dina. And there would be no mention of the boar.
Tavşan pişmanlığı. Alt tarafı bir domuz ama duygusal sahne yapmışlar ha. Joel'un sahnesi. Joel'un yattığı sahne. Vay, güzel duygusal bir sahne yaratmışlar. Anlaşıldı. Evet dostlar, gördüğünüz gibi bu 3 bölümü de, 3 oyuna eklenmemiş bölümü de, kayıp bölümleri de sizlere aktarmış olduk. Last of Us Part 2'nin Remastered bölümünde. Bir de ek olarak Dönüş Yok diye bir roguelike bir seri var. Onu da oynarız. Bu bölüm sadece kayıp bölümlere özgü olsun. Diğer bölümde de bunu oynayalım ve Remastered'da ne eklenmiş hep birlikte görelim. Zaten ana oyunu biliyorsunuz oynamıştık kanalımızda. Diğer bölümde Dönüş Yok moduyla tekrar birlikte olacağız. Heavy TV kanalımıza abone olmayı da unutmayın arkadaşlar. Hoşçakalın.
Oyunumuzun bu bölümü sona erdi. Heavy TV kanalına abone olmak için sol taraftaki simgeyi, devam bölümünü izlemek için ise sağ taraftaki simgeyi tıklayabilirsiniz. Şimdilik görüşmek üzere.